Hi, my name is Ginger, and I'm here to tell you about the cancer story of my husband, who at 37 died of cancer. And 40 years later, I was diagnosed with cancer. We both had leukemia, different kinds, but we both went through the same journey. My husband was just a 2-year believer in the Lord, but his life changed so dramatically that he gave up everything to just study the Bible. He gave up drinking, carousing, swearing. Everything changed. Everybody couldn't believe it. His family, and by the time he died, which was 2 years after that, he had led his whole family to the Lord, many doctors and nurses, and he had really studied the Bible. The last thing he said to me was, read me Isaiah 54:13, which said, your sons will be taught of the Lord, and great will be the peace of your sons. I believe that's when he was able to release himself into God's hands, because the last thing he did then was, let me pray for you, and he prayed for me, and that was the last thing he ever said. So going forward, it was the years, especially the first year after that, is a complete blur how I made it, really. And I had no job. I had 2 kids, 4 and 6, and I could only rely on the Lord. I had no other means, but a Christian brother and sister came to me and gave me a blank check and said, use this until your Social Security survivor's benefits come in. This was so new to me. I new believer, and people giving me things that it blew me away. I mean, I constantly cried, Lord, what are you doing? And he kept saying the same thing over and over again. I've got you in the palm of my hand. And I kept seeing that picture. So I went back to school and I got my degree, and the Lord led me to wonderful jobs. And I worked up until my diagnosis. I went to the doctor, and she took a vial of blood, and the next thing she comes in and she says, what does your oncologist say about your blood work? And I looked at her and I said, I don't have an oncologist. I only have you. And she said, oh, we have to send you to a cancer clinic right now. You got to give more blood. Well, I went, and after 13 vials of blood, I thought, there is something wrong here. They called me the next day, and unbeknown to, just gave me a doctor there. I didn't know anybody. She was very, very nice, and she very gently said to me, you have MDR, leukemia. Flashes right away came of my husband. And I said, leukemia? And I told her, I said, I saw what my husband went through. I was there. I am not going to do that. And I told her right off, I said, I just want to sail into the sunset. I'm getting old. So tell me, how much time do I have? Do I have a year or 2? And she looked at me and she said, your numbers are so high. They're so high that I can't even say if you'll have 8 months. And I went, oh. And then she said, I have one doctor I want you to talk to. And she said, let me call her. And while she's calling her, I am sitting there like, oh, my mind is going, well, I don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. But, all right, Lord, I don't want to do this. You want me to do this, Lord? It was in and out of the hospitals. I fell. I developed this terrible thing of leukemia patients called graft versus host, and it finds your weak spots. I had blown cataracts in both eyes. I had had that operation during the time. The arthritis in my knees and my ankles swelled up. I got a reaction to prednisone, and I got this moon face and blew up in weight. I was miserable, absolutely miserable. I'm grateful that the Lord was with me every day. I mean, I was at a teaching hospital. in the area, 10 doctors, 7 doctors come in at a time and look at you and give you their diagnosis every morning. And every morning I just listen to them and I go, change it around, Lord. Be the positive. I found out that God kept telling me that He was the God of the unknown, and that I had to give up the worry. I didn't know how to completely trust, but it's gotten easier. It was the prayers and the concern and the care of my neighborhood, my Bible studies. God is faithful. He wants you to trust Him all the way. And I'm grateful for the time that I've been given. I've gotten to see my son get married. I've gotten to see my granddaughter graduate from high school and soccer. I got to see a new baby born. Those are precious things to me. And I think they're blessings from God. And He's showing me, yes, I'm still in the palm of His hands. And that's where I want to be.